Take a moment to focus our hearts and minds on achieving wisdom and clarity tonight in discussion and debate. We ask that light shines in our hearts and illuminates the decisions made here tonight on behalf of our community.
Thank you. The Circular Council acknowledges the North West Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of the country in which we stand, meet and play. We recognise their continuing connection to the land and waters and community. We pay respects to elders, past, present and emerging. Right. We've done. Confirmation of minutes. Have I got a move?
So moved.
Thanks, Councillor Oldacre. Seconded, Councillor Collins. No debate. We'll put the motion for the minutes of the last meeting. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Declarations of interest.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'll declare a non-pecuniary interest in the Marrawal Gold development application, only because I've done a bit of work for Carlton in the real estate space, and so I'll just leave the table for that one.
Thanks, Councillor Abner. Right, 4.1, Mayor's Communications. There's a list of meetings, etc. there. Is there any questions on those?
Yes, Mr Mayor, the meeting with Senator Urquhart, was that in relation to Dismal Swamp as to where that money is?
It wasn't not specifically in relation to, but it did come up. It was just a general. The senator was around a general catch-up after the local government last state election. So it was a general catch-up. Vanessa, you may be able to give us a little bit more on where the Dismal Swamp money is.
The state government is still in the final stages of extracting it from the federal government.
Yeah.
Everything's been signed. It's just the last bit. Yes, Councillor Flowers.
On the 7th of the 5th, the Arthur Palmer Conservation Area Management Committee. What's happening with the money for the upgrade of the tracks? How far away would that be?
There was a report which is potentially up on the website. We got a report on where I was at that meeting, and it's not far away from going out up on the website and out and about. That'll explain it better than what I could do here verbally. That was after the consultations that were recently held down in at the edge down there.
Yep.
I'll do a follow up, but I'm pretty sure it's about to go up on the website.
So is the Arthur Palmer Committee ratifying the report they received?
Yeah, there's no dramas in it, no. But, Councillor Flowers again.
Can we also get a breakdown on what money is spent in our municipality? Because it was all for the Palmer area to start off with. Now they're spending some.
No, it was never all for the Arthur Palmer area, as I understand it. It was, but yes, I can. Short answer. Yep. Yes, I can. But it was never all for the Arthur Palmer area.
I was led to believe it was for the Arthur Palmer area. It was for the closure of the Arthur Palmer tracks.
That triggered it, certainly.
Yes. Yeah,
that triggered it, certainly.
Yeah, I'd just like a breakdown, and it'd be nice to know how much has gone out of that $10 million.
It's potentially even, once again, I'll find out, but it's potentially on the website. The minutes are going up on the website monthly. Yep. Or whenever the meetings are. I'm not sure if the last lot are up there yet, but I'll find that out for you.
Just it'd be good to know how much has gone into consultancy fees and all that other rubbish, and how much is exactly going to go into repairing and maintaining tracks.
There's certainly a breakdown of that, but I'm not going to try and pull it off.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Yep. Councillor Foskey.
Can I ask you, I see when Norm Berkery's invited you out, how are they travelling out there?
Yeah, actually come in. He requested a meeting or chat with the General Manager and myself. Travelling all right. He was looking at getting a little community group together, just to be able to have a little community focus and be able to then, I suppose, lobby us, if you like, as on a community basis.
Well, that's good.
So that's what that meeting was about, and what sort of. He doesn't want a council committee, he just wants a little group and just to create some liaison between the two.
Just wants your money.
I reckon that'll become part of it somewhere. Councillor Hine?
Yeah, just the top one, Coastal FM, and what was that chat about? And
Oh, Spruce, you're testing me now, Councillor Hine.
that's why I asked you.
Every month, and I'll do the same tomorrow if you listen to Coast FM. Brian Shearston, on the Friday after our council meeting, I have about a 10-15 minute, he rings up and have a 10 or 15 minute chat. It's a monthly thing. Now, I presume last month I would have talked about upcoming Anzac Day, mentioned things like the Central Business Development and Stanley, they generally get a mention. There's some other communities, the community team had ran in that area. I generally talk about those sort of positive stuff. But exactly, no, you're testing me too much.
Thank you.
No more? Can I have a mover and a second that they be noted, please? Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Second, Councillor Flowers. No debate. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Reports. And the same for the workshop. That's the two workshops we had this month. If there's no question, could I have a mover and a second that they be noted? Thanks, Councillor Dabner. Second, Councillor Hine. No debate. I put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Public questions. The Council encourages community participation in its meeting through the opportunity for public questions and statements consistent with Council's core values. Councils and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with courtesy, fairness, dignity and respect. We expect our residents and ratepayers to apply similar standards in dealing with councillors. As Mayor, it is my responsibility to maintain the orderly conduct of council meetings and determine whether a question or statement is out of order due to use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. I ask members of the public to show proper consideration and courtesy in these comments. And tonight I intend to give everybody the opportunity to ask 2 questions or make a statement if they wish. Not everyone will probably want to ask questions. If they do not, and there's still time for people who have more than 2 questions, we can deal with those. So please, if anyone has a question or a statement, if they could come to the podium, state their name and proceed.
Sorry, my first time ever at a council meeting. It's all new to me.
Well, welcome.
So I did have probably 4 or 5 minutes of statement and question, but I'll stick to something much less by the sound of it.
Yeah, just a bit of preamble on the question, or you can do a statement.
So a very quick preamble. It's to do with natural burial that we've been in conversation with the council with for more than 3 years now. And finally we got a decision late last year that it was a no to natural burial. My request was to have a natural burial in the Lawn Cemetery on the way to, in the Lawn Cemetery there. It consists mainly of, to a depth with a metre of soil above me. And I'll be there with my family, and you know my story, I'm Edward Quillen. So my question was that mainly revolved around the answer was that we've worked through the issues, council says, with an eye to future environmental risks such as sea level rise and erosion, and unfortunately we have concluded that the council's lawn cemetery is unsuited to natural burials given its location. So what we would basically like to know is what scientific research or where the information came from to come up with that decision. That's 3 or 4 questions in a nutshell. And the other one is, would council reconsider its position? And I have as my partner here with me tonight the president of the Natural Death Advocacy Network of Australia, established that, or helped to establish that and set it up, and she would be prepared to give you information, a session, more information, whatever you need to help in that decision. Thank you.
Thanks, Evan.
I will have to take that
Yeah,
on
we'll
notice.
take all that on notice and then come back to you again from there. We wouldn't have it on hand of where all that simply got from. Thank you. Any further questions? Mr Harris.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I didn't think I'd be back so soon, but I'm back. I've got two questions tonight in relation to the settlement strategy. Commend Council on embarking on such a strategy, and as I think, as we all probably tend to agree, it's an important step for our next generation. As the initial report was less than satisfactory, as we've seen at the public meeting down at the rec, what are the next steps for Council in relation to the strategy?
I'll go and then I'll hand to you, Phil. Yes, but there has been more than just the public meeting. We've had representations come in a number of places, and not all negative, some positive. We accepted even prior to that meeting that some parts of that strategy was not laid out in a good enough fashion, and that had been acknowledged. Unfortunately, that wasn't acknowledged at the meeting, but that had been acknowledged. So that has been collated, gone away from then. I'm not sure how far away. Phil, please.
So the process is going to be extended. It'll be extended particularly to include small settlements around Circular Head, and a number of workshops are planned to involve people from small settlements to give their opinion to the settlement strategy. And there'll be an opportunity for people to have another go at their inputs into that document. So we recognise that there are ways the document can be improved and communicated, and the process is underway to do that. So that's where we're up to.
Yep. So it's in the process of revisiting it.
Fantastic, thank you. And second question, sort of more of a broad question relating to the population strategy that commenced in 2018, 19, John? You know exactly. We worked at Council for about 3.5 years on that strategy, and as a ratepayer, I was quite alarmed that 10,000 number wasn't included in the settlement strategy. I think, just as a ratepayer, I think it's important that we strive to increase our population, because we all know if we don't increase it in the Circular Head municipality, what the repercussions will be. So as a ratepayer, I would like to see a target of 10,000 be adopted for the settlement strategy going forward, because otherwise we just cannot sustain, and also this table can't sustain the rate income or this as an organisation if we don't grow our rate base. So
Yep.
I'd like to see that.
Yep. I'll take that as a statement then, Stafford, and I don't think there's many people who disagree with the base thoughts behind that. So we'll take that as a statement.
Hi, just in relation to natural burial again, and I'm Beck Lyons. I am the president of the Natural Death Advocacy Network.
Thank you.
What we're particularly wondering is for council to reassess, and based on the fact that Huon Valley, Kingborough, Burnie, Tasman Peninsula and Waratah Wynyard are all committed and allowing natural burial in at least one or some of their cemeteries and on private land in their council electorates. So in relation what I'm seeking from this council, the investigations that have been going on and the conclusion that was drawn after those investigations, I'd like to know who did that research if possible. And also, was it independent consultation in that research, and will council be willing to release that as well? And the response also talked about the rising sea levels being an issue, climate change. So I guess in addition to that, natural burial being an ecologically friendly and more environmentally friendly option than traditional burial. On that basis alone, if council acknowledges that climate change is an issue, is that then something that should actually really be considered as a part of the strategy towards climate change?
Take that all on notice. Most of them a fair percentage of them was already on notice, but we'll take them all on notice.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Liz Wells. I just have a couple of questions. I did have some others, but in light of Stafford's question about the money coming into the community, I think I'll go with that one. The pavilions, the Duck River pavilions, am I correct in understanding that we lease the Heritage Centre?
No,
Do we lease any of them buildings?
we lease the information centre area.
The Information Centre area?
Yep.
And the Heritage Centre, we don't lease it?
We support the Heritage Group, but they lease it.
Yep. It's just that when I was looking at the paperwork before, when they leased the building down there, you guys used to pay the lease when you had it down there.
We supported it, yeah.
Yeah, so they've actually become an incorporated body since they were in the building down there. So we did used to lease that, but we don't now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it still goes to the point, what monetary amounts are we paying out to lease back a building that was built with federally funded money?
Take that on notice, but
according to the latest Chronicle, a $7 million asset to them private investors that our community got funding for.
the Agritas Group board, you'll have to take that up with them. It says,
We've all seen how that goes.
well, but it's not our building.
But
we lease.
I'm a ratepayer that you're
Yeah,
paying
and
my
I'll
rates
take-
to lease part of that
I will
building.
take that on
It's
notice.
federally funded.
I will take that on notice,
Yep.
and we'll give an answer on that. I don't know the number off the top of my head, no. But we lease the information area. Since we leased that area and the information centre's been there, the people going through the information centre has skyrocketed through the roof.
So in regards to that then, the information centre staff, are they employed by the council or
Yes.
are they employed? So we are employing staff to conduct cheese tasting tours?
No,
Just cheese tastings?
they did do the cheese
They do the
tasting.
cheese tastings.
They don't do
I've
the
been there on
tour.
numerous occasions when they do it.
They don't do the tours, that's Agritas or the tour person do it.
Yep. So now my next question is in regards to the direct responses to representations in regards to the development of the Duck River Pavilions on Nelson Street. There was a question in regards to potential for leakage from the in-ground dairy effluent storage tanks. The dairy will operate as a model dairy. In-ground dairy effluent storage tanks will be constructed in such a manner as to limit any leakage. Agritas would assess the surrounds on at least a quarterly basis for any effluent escape and immediately take corrective action. Can we have that quarterly report released to the public so that we can see what is happening with that?
That's Agritas.
Beg pardon?
That's Agritas again.
But you as a planning authority, that was part of the recommendations that came through the planning authority, so don't you then have to...
No, we have to make sure that it happens, but it's their report.
Yeah, so
You'd have to talk to Agritas to get that report.
so you can't provide that documentation to
It's
me?
not ours to provide.
How is it not yours to provide?
It's Agritas's report.
I don't want the report, I want how often yous are checking that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. After what happened with the trees and the planting of the trees on Nelson Street, I don't have much faith in the actual reporting of these incidents and would like to know where it's documented and if the public has access to it.
Well, you'll have to talk to the Agritas board about whether the public has access to it or not.
So just another circle then. I don't have another few $1,000s to go to court and ask them questions.
No.
I'm a ratepayer, it's my money that was spent. I feel that I deserve an answer, do I not?
There was no council money spent in that.
We got federally funded money.
That's not council money.
It's still money that belongs to the community,
I'm
is it
not
not?
going to argue. I've answered your question. Have you got any more questions?
Do I have time for another
You're
question?
going to have time for another question?
Yep. So last week, my brother is disabled, as am I, and he suffered a medical episode and we rang an ambulance. And the ambulance couldn't tell us when they were going to be here. Another hour went by and I rang the ambulance back after he suffered a second seizure. And they still couldn't tell us when there was going to be an ambulance. I said, is it going to come from Wynyard? Is it going to come from Burnie? Have you got any idea? Should I put my brother in the vehicle and start driving towards Burnie Hospital? They couldn't give me an answer. As a member of this community, I find that absolutely appalling that we can't even be given a time frame of when an ambulance is going to appear. And I know that yourself and the Deputy Mayor had dealt with this. I've seen it somewhere in the media some time ago. And I'm just wondering, with the announcements that keep coming from this Liberal government to do with the stadium and all that money, when are we as a council going to start pushing for our rural communities to get the same services and access to services as the rest of the state?
Melissa, I can assure you we've been pushing all the way through. I've had several meetings in regard to, and I sympathise with your specific recent
I'm no different
happening.
to anybody else in this community that needs an ambulance when they need an ambulance.
We've been pushing and pushing and pushing, and we continue to do so. One of the election promises was that there would be another paramedic down here. That's fine. It's getting the bodies to do that now. So we will be continuing to push to that. So you asked when. We have been for the last 8 years. Well, I've been here 6 years. Last 6 years that I know of it.
So perhaps we need to take a different direction or take another angle because it hasn't got us any success so far.
Election promise.
Yeah,
We need to follow it up.
we've got to follow that.
We've got that massive, great big new ambulance centre and we just don't have ambulances. It seems pointless.
Melissa, you're preaching to the people that agree with you,
Yeah.
and we're pushing towards it, but I can't snap my fingers and solve the problem tomorrow.
But do you think as a community we should have to wait 6 to 8 years?
No. I'm not, once
I'm not
again...
blaming you, I'm just saying as a community member, what can we do? Can we
But
sit around a table, can we discuss it, put some ideas out there to get this happening?
Once again, we have a commitment. We're going to now work through that. So I can do no more than that.
Now, do I have time for one more?
If it's quick and it's not a debate.
It's not a debate, it's
Right.
quick. Who out of the council members holds a Working with Vulnerable Children's card?
I'm happy to put my hand up.
So it
All the workers do.
Yep. So we'll, when you adopt the new policy in regards to child safety, I'm not sure of the actual name of it at the moment, it's lost my mind. But when you implement that strategy in regards to child safety, will you be putting in there that all members of council should have working with vulnerable?
It's not so much us as what's going through in the reviews that's happening.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking in regards to.
Parliamentary
so
There's a lot of...
we've adopted a policy and a complaint handling process back in January, I think it was, Vanessa, or either December or January.
January.
And part of that process is actually working out who needs the Working with Vulnerable People cards and what the word for it.
Criteria?
Yeah, not the criteria, like whether it's nationally or just Tasmanian recognised. So there's a whole bunch of things behind the actual card that we want to know more about to start off with. So we've got an internal working group that's just about to start. We had a meeting this afternoon. So they've got a meeting in the next couple of weeks to actually delve into the requirements behind the Working with Vulnerable People card, what it means, and then what it means for this organisation. So it may or may not be that we all need them. It may not be. So it's just, we're doing a bit of a deep dive into that at the moment to work out what we do need and what we don't need, and then that'll come back probably in a policy position. Maybe in a policy position, but definitely in a strategy internally to work out what we need.
So just a statement, I had seen that some other councils in regards to it are saying that they don't deal with children, or not everyone deals with children or vulnerable people. But like, for example, in our community, we have a youth council that we deal with regularly, and lots of vulnerable people.
Yeah, so, and look, we've identified, across our workforce and volunteers and things like that, that it actually touches lots of different, that's a bad word to use, that actually impacts on a lot of different areas that we have we don't think it does. So we've had a working group working on this now for 5 or 6 months. So it's definitely in hand, and we're definitely moving it along. We're part of a state group with Legat, and we've got a staff member on the reference committee as well too. So yeah. Sorry.
Thanks, Melissa. No more? Thank you. We'll move on. Machine up there. Where are we up to?
Planning.
Planning. I will remind the councillors that we're now sitting as a planning authority and not a council. And ask Kat to present the first one.
Hello, thank you. So, the proposed development is for an outbuilding shed at 10 Pierce Street in Stanley. The proposed shed will be 130 metres squared. The property is zoned general residential and it is within the Stanley Conservation Area. The property has a total area of 1,062 metres squared, contains an existing dwelling, outbuilding and garden shed. The proposed shed will be sited within the southwest corner, which you can see on page 20 of your agenda. The one discretionary item of this planning application is the fact that a corner of the proposed shed is outside of the acceptable building envelope for the general residential zone. We received one representation, and here are the planning matters within that representation. The representatives were concerned that Heritage did not properly address the development. The application and that representation were both sent through to the Tasmanian Heritage Council as they decide all matters based on heritage. Once they are involved, as the site is a heritage listed site, Council no longer addresses the heritage concerns, it's just the Heritage Council, and they have sent through a notice that they give consent to approve the application. The representation was also concerned of a future use for commercial use of the shed. This application is specifically for a residential use shed, and we have a statement from the applicant that says that he is going to store his commercial boat there, but that is not considered commercial use. It is just storing of your own goods on your own property, which is residential use. And we have put a condition, number 3, on page 15 of your agenda that specifies that the shed can only be used for residential activities and that no building activities can occur, no business activities can occur on the site. The final planning matter within the representation is concern about the shed overshadowing the representative adjoining property. This is addressed within my planning assessment of the building envelope section of the planning scheme. So on page 25 of your agenda, there is an image that shows the corner of the shed that is outside of the building envelope, which is like an orange square just outside of the red dashed line. The performance criteria specifically addresses overshadowing, visual impact, and the separation between the shed and adjoining dwellings. So an acceptable level of overshadowing is that a building does not cause 50% of the adjoining properties to receive less than 3 hours of sunlight between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. on the 21st of June. This is an acceptable solution within the general residential zone. The shading plan on page 26 of your agenda shows that the proposal does meet this standard. The proposed shed will have minimal visual impact as it is within the existing built area, and it is underneath existing roof lines on the property, as the existing outbuilding on the property is taller than the proposed shed. The separation between the shed and the adjoining dwellings is 6 metres to the west and 10 metres to the south. This is above the average for the street, which is 6 metres. And as you can see in figure 8 on page 27 of your agenda, it is a larger separation than many of the other dwellings on the street. On this basis, it is recommended that Council provide a conditional approval for this application. Is there any further questions?
Thanks, Kat. Is there any questions? You don't have to stand, Councillor Hyman, while we're planning?
Don't have to?
Not while we're planning, no.
Thank you, good. Yeah, looking at on page 20, there's a garden shed there. Was it considered a possibility of relocating that or removing it and moving the shed closer to away from the building which is being shaded, the resident?
All planning performance criteria could be met, so we didn't suggest any relocation.
Sorry?
All of the performance criteria could be met, so we didn't suggest any relocation.
Right. Thank you. Go back one. Why is it necessary to have such a high shed? Could not the back of the shed have a hip section at the back so as to minimise shading? which is also on page 25.
The height of the shed is well below the maximum height for the general residential zone, which is 8 metres. So anyone can build a shed to under 8 metres within the general residential zone and meet that height requirement.
Thank you. Keep going. We've got some others.
Well, you finish first then.
Righto.
I'll come to you then, Ash.
Yeah, within
Councillor Bosky.
page 22, the word unreasonably, which you've actually quoted, it does leave a question mark in my mind, and therefore it is not clear cut. What is the time frame for this application to be approved, and do we have time for this application to be deferred?
What is the time?
What date did you get on your...
My extension of time is till tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
That answers the question quite clearly.
Certainly does, yes.
It's not hard to work out.
Very good.
It's not hard to work out.
That's right.
Have you got any more?
I do have one, yes, somewhere. What eventually happens with the stormwater? What currently happens now prior to any building being built?
Currently,
It's all on site.
It's all on site, it says somewhere.
I
Someone can.
well, our engineers signed off and EHO's both signed off that the stormwater design was going to be satisfactory to all of the requirements that they have for stormwater to have within that area.
So stormwater is going to be stored initially and then let go on a gradual basis afterwards, or
Go into the stormwater drains, won't it?
Is there
It says there somewhere where it's stored on
They do
site.
have the
Mr Mayor, can
I don't think it says where it's
Hang on,
stored.
stay on. Councillor Holdacre.
my understanding, the stormwater, when the building's built, that's all got to face the building surveyor. It's all got to be approved by the building surveyor. What happens with the water that comes onto that block now, it's a natural process because it's a vacant block, for want of a better way of describing it. So therefore, it's not an issue until the shed's built. Once the shed is built, the building surveyor, I was going to say building surveyor, the building compliance officer, will make sure that the stormwater is connected to the stormwater system. There's no other way around it. That's how it has to happen.
May I?
Certainly.
Councillors, if you look at page 56 of the agenda, you will see the stormwater absorption dispersal area diagram, and that indicates that there's a drain going to be installed.
Can I add something?
Hang on, no, Ashley first. Yes, go, Alan.
Large parts of Stanley don't have a stormwater network. So there's no curb and channel, there's no underground network taking it away. My belief is that this property is within that area. So the regulation is then that you have to be able to contain your stormwater on site. In this case, they are proposing to capture stormwater and put it into a soakage trench.
That's okay.
So that...
It's still been addressed under...
Yeah.
It's there in the report. Right.
Yep.
Thanks, Alan. Ash, did you have a question?
Yes, on a
I'm
different
sorry,
matter.
Councillor Popolski, did you have a question?
No, that's all right. You can call me Ash. It was a lot worse on the football field. Just two questions. The first one is, was there any consideration given, would it help the shading over, I hear what you said about the 8 metre rule, if it was a skillion instead of a gable on the roof?
Well, can I answer?
Yes, go.
Overshadowing is assessed at the winter solstice.
Sorry?
The winter solstice, the shortest day of this year.
Yes.
And the shadow diagrams in this report show that there's less than 50% overshadowing of the neighbouring property at the worst day of the year. So under the planning scheme, this proposal meets the performance criteria that relates to overshadowing. That's it.
Point taken, and I accept that. Would it have improved if it had been a skillion roof instead of a gable?
Well, I don't think we can answer that.
No, we can't answer it because the planners would have done their assessment on what was put into them. I think it's as simple as that, isn't it?
Yep.
The second question, unrelated, it's more a knowledge question. Has council got any policy to bear on building of corrugated iron buildings within the urban areas of Circle Head?
Not to my knowledge.
Is the time to explore?
Potentially, but not for this debate.
No, it was just a point, just a question of...
Councillor Collins, did you have a question?
Oh, I had a couple, but don't worry about them, it's all right.
Good. Right.
Yep. Following on from Councillor Popovsky's, obviously there's heritage rules and regulation guidelines that have to be followed and enforced with some section of Stanley, but can you inform us what sections of Stanley there are different rules and different sections as far as the heritage regulation?
Councillor Hine, that's a reasonable question, but probably for question time rather than for the planning matter.
Right.
We're dealing with the planning matter in front of us at the moment.
Yep.
Just in, if you may, just in relation to heritage, this was referred to Heritage Tasmania, and they have no objection to the shed.
Yep.
Corrugated iron sheds are everywhere, and this is probably no different to many sheds.
So those two questions are both reasonable questions, but not relating exactly to this planning matter. So we'll deal with them at a later date.
Mr Mayor, I've moved that the motion now be put.
Yes, certainly. Are you willing to move
I'll move the recommendations.
Thanks, Councillor Oldacre. Seconded by Councillor Flowers. Wish to speak, Councillor Oldacre?
Mr Mayor, I went through this with a very fine-tooth comb to make sure that everything was right. You know, I've got plenty of time now to do some of those things. But in sincerity, it's what's allowed, so therefore we've got no option but to accept what's before us.
Councillor Flowers, you wish to speak?
Yeah, I didn't spend as much time as Councillor Oldacre, but I did have a bit of a read, and it ticks all the boxes. That's all it's got to do. Well, that's in my opinion. If she's doing everything by the letter of the law, it's be passed.
Any other wish to speak? For or against?
Certainly, yes.
You don't have to stand, Councillor Hine?
Yep, I don't have to.
No, not in planning.
Yeah, look, as I said, the word unreasonable is there, and I think it does need a better clear-cut sort of answer. And so at this stage of the game, yes, I will vote against that.
Okay. Councillor Collins?
I happened to visit both of these sites and had a look at both properties. And there's a lot of questions going around about the building of the sheds. Nearly every shed was built out of corrugated iron 50 years ago or more in these heritage buildings. A lot of them had outbuildings as corrugated. So I don't see a problem there. They've actually stipulated the colours to match the house and the style of it, if you have a read through the documents. So as far as Ms Councillor Oldacre has said, it ticks all the boxes and there's not a lot we can do about it as a planning authority.
And what? I'll be supporting on what's been presented in the planning bit. And I think you're a little faux pas there, Councillor Hine. It says reasonably, not unreasonable, in the area you was talking about. All right, no further debate. Put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Yes.
That one? Motion is carried. Thank you and well done, Kat. Ellie.
Okay, so the next DA that we've got up for consideration is the kelp processing plant at Marrawong.
Oh, yep. Thanks, Councillor Levin.
Oh.
You have to go right out. You're right out.
Okay, retrospective approval is being sought for the kelp processing plant at 189 Greenpoint Road, Marrawong. Previously, the existing buildings on the site were used as a dairy and farm sheds, but for the past 20 years, the site has been used for kelp washing and processing into fertiliser products. In recent years, the processing has intensified with the inclusion of a new product, triggering the requirement for development approval for the operation. The proposal triggers one discretion as the proposed hours of operation are outside the acceptable solution defined within the rural living zone provisions in the planning scheme. Assessment against the rural living zone purpose has also been undertaken to ensure that the purpose is complied with, as the proposed development is a discretionary use within the zone. One representation was received during the advertising period. All the concerns listed within the representation were relating to noise created by the processing activity, particularly the overnight use of machinery. During the assessment of the rural living zone purpose, planning staff have identified that the noise of the operation has the potential to impact the surrounding residential properties. An environmental noise assessment was required, and the recommendations within the assessment have been recommended as condition 6 on the permit. In addition, we're recommending condition 7, which requires that the applicant obtains a second noise assessment following the installation of the noise mitigation measures to confirm that the noise levels are below the acceptable criteria within regulations. As a result, the issues raised within the representation are considered to be satisfied. As resource processing is a discretionary use within the rural living zone, we are also recommending condition 4, which outlines the maximum processing capacity of the plant. The applicant has provided the quantities of kelp being processed, and this forms the basis of the condition. If any increases in the processing capacity will require further assessment against the planning scheme to ensure the impact on surrounding users and the environment are adequately mitigated. Assessment of the application against the performance criteria and the zone purpose has determined that the performance criteria has been satisfied, and therefore the recommendation is for conditional approval.
Questions to Ali? Councillor Hyde.
Yes, condition 4, which seems to me a little bit restrictive on a new enterprise or an enterprise that's got potential to expand. Who inserted the 520 odd tonne, which is an annual?
So that condition was based on the amount that the information that they gave us in the application. They told us that they process up to 10 tonnes per week. By 52 weeks is 520 tonnes. Yeah.
So it's something you've taken on board from the discussion with them, and
it's written in the application.
Written in their application.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Right, could I have a mover to
move the recommendation and the conditions that go with it.
Thank you, Councillor Oldacre. Seconded, Councillor Flowers again. Any debate, Councillor Oldacre?
Oh, it's creating employment, Mr Mayor, and provided they meet all the conditions, there's not an issue. It's only when if they step outside the conditions that it would become a problem. But at the present time, what's written here and what the staff have been told, we need to get on with it because it does create employment.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Flowers.
Yeah, I'm happy to see it approved. It's been there for years. It employs people. They've been stopped for about 6 months by all reports. The tonnage is put through there, in my opinion, should have been a bit more for allow for an expansion, but that weren't up to us. That was what the proponents put in. But if I was the opponents, I would have tickled it a bit more.
Yes, Councillor Collins.
I think it's a well-run family business. It's been there for quite a while, providing employment. So as long as the conditions are met, I'm sure they can comply and keep running the business quite successfully.
Any further?
I'd just like to say that...
Sorry, staff. Sorry.
Put it in as infactual information which could
been twisted. It has been twisted, that, but anyway, we'll deal with that as it's either passed or not passed.
All right, thank you. All right, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right. Thank you.
The amount we put through. That's saying that.
Thanks, guys.
Just sat in the room. Yeah, that's right. Without that.
Right, 7
You
point...
are or not?
Item 8.
I've always got out of the room.
7. Oh, sorry, yes, sorry.
Right, back,
That must have been Freudian.
back in town. Questions, there's 1711, a response to the question from Councillor Flower. Sorry, councillors, we're now back in the council session. 711, response to Councillor Flowers. 72 nil, 73. Any questions without notice?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Ollie.
My question, I know this is a Taswater issue, but it's been 2 years or thereabouts round the chemists.
Yeah.
And a report came to us yesterday, when the kids are coming home from high school, they're walking on the Woolworths side and running the risk because they're looking at their phones. How much longer are Taswater going to be, or is there some other issue there that's causing it not to have been fully fixed?
I don't know. I'll have to take that on notice.
That is a reasonable question.
Yeah.
Councillor Flowers?
So I have to stand on
Yeah, you're back to standing.
Yeah. I'd like to know, on the state government road, like the Bass Highway, do we maintain, where there's curb and channel, do we maintain the footpaths and the grassed area, or is it?
I think it's all DSG when it's their road, but I can check for you.
Just that, yeah, I've been led to believe when you go into Stanley.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there a particular spot? Or?
Yeah, there is a particular spot. You know I'm so anal with Sloane. That's the roundabout. Here at Smithton.
Down at Tall Timbers?
Tall Timbers roundabout.
Yep.
There's curb and channel there. They've sprayed 1.4 metres on the lawn. Now, I don't know what their excuse is. It couldn't be for shoulder, it couldn't be for, I don't know. Now, if it's our land, they should be revved, because I think it is our land. I think once there's curb and channel, I know Stanley is, once there's curb and channel, the roads belongs to state government, footpaths and everything belong to council.
We'll take that on notice and find out. Yep.
Just that if it's theirs, that shouldn't be happening inside the town boundary either. It's just way out there ridiculous.
Yep, haven't got an answer for you, but Vanessa's scribbling away vigorously here, so we'll take on notice and find out for you.
Thank you.
Councillor Hine.
I'll start off with the one that re the Stanley situation. What section of Stanley are covered by heritage listing, and are there different sections that are covered by different
Yep, we'll have to take that on notice.
guidelines? Yep.
Hine, yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know of any covenants in the areas. I do know there's some specific buildings, but there could well be. We'll take it on notice.
First question, if anyone read the Chronicle, there's our council has been successful in getting funding for barrier, for road safety barriers. The question is, would this council support an application for funding to assist in addressing a major accident section for the Stanley Road adjacent to Thui's Lookout? That section may qualify for funding from the same source that the above fund application was successful. Alternatively, there may be other avenues for either or both the Tasmanian Federal Government, tourism or other departments. Question 2.
I'll deal with that one first.
Yep.
James is not here, but that's part and parcel of redevelopment through there, so without knowing what the plans is as they redevelop and redo that road and to Thui's Lookout.
Yep.
Until such time as we know what's going to be there, we can't go lobbying for stuff we might not need. So we'll have to wait and see what plans are in place for that bit of road.
All right.
Because that's down for improvement, that road.
Yeah, all right, but we are looking at our budget, look something to do something there at some stage.
Yeah,
so
but until we know what,
yep.
we've got the cart before the horse.
Yep. Righto too, would this council support and assist in lobbying the Tasmanian Government and relevant departments to seek external funding to have some toilet facilities to be installed, including covering on cleaning and maintenance costs at the existing side road car park or within the Toowoomba State Reserve in which the Toowoomba Arch is situated?
Point of order, Mr Mayor, is that question needs to be in a motion so this full council can discuss it. That's not a question ad hoc expecting somebody to do something.
That's fair. Either that or it'll be a budget discussion now as it's gone by to talk at a budget workshop.
It needs a motion at this stage.
It needs a motion.
So I foreshadow, I will move a motion to that at the next council meeting then. Is that
All right.
the
Do
best way
you
to
want
do
me
it?
to work with you on that, or are you happy to draft it up yourself?
I'm quite happy for someone to help work with it, because I think question B was, following on from the last question, that particular reserve lends itself to become an additional tourist attraction, with a walking track being added to the existing car park side, and could also include a research project that is particularly focused on the leatherwood species that also an opportunity to have some form of identification labelling to those other tree species that are within that reserve. And so
I'd say that's a second motion on
yeah,
the same.
so I have worded up a third one which is to do with that. So
yeah, so if it's all going, just drop them in.
Yep,
Talk to the general manager, and either into one or do them as three motions or whatever.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hyde. Any further questions? Thank you. My time is out. Notice of motions. Councillor Dabner.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that council develop a municipal growth policy.
Right, seconded to that motion.
Seconded, Mr.
Thanks, Councillor Oldacre. Councillor Dabner.
There's a lot of detail contained within the motion there, but this is what I'd like to say about it. Tonight, now, as Stafford acknowledged in questions earlier on, we need to change and we need to grow. I've spoken to every single person at this table, and I can probably speak on behalf of Councillor Pilkington as well. We all have a strong appetite for change and growth, and we all recognise the need for it, because it just cannot continue as it is. It's essential, and the best time for it is absolutely right now. Now, everyone here has heard me, I'll use the term bang on, about thinking big and exploring opportunities before obstacles, and this policy will mean it just simply becomes how we do things here at Circular Head Council. It won't be optional. We need positive change, and for that we need growth in all its forms. We need to grow our population, we need to grow our housing market, we need to grow our economy and business community, and I absolutely believe we can do it all and do it big. I want the public, investors, the ideas people, visitors, our younger people, our older people, and everybody in the middle to see that this is a municipality full of opportunity. And your ideas are welcome here, and where possible, this council will find a pathway for you to turn them into reality. So with all that in mind, I'd like to ask for this council's support in creating this mechanism that will make sure in all that we do, we are helping our community to grow and create a place where people want to stay and live, because massive opportunity lives here too. The council as a machine plays an integral role in the enthusiasm of our community to do new things. We do not want to be seen as a roadblock, which has been a perception, and it's important to face up and own that. However, that was yesterday. Today we have the opportunity to make sure that everyone at council, from the very top to the very bottom, are taking any activity that involves growth of any type and wringing every opportunity out of it on behalf of the community we all work for. I believe this is what our municipality expects of us. I firmly believe that the excellent staff we employ are already doing this in most cases, but I'd like the passing of this motion to provide all those out there who need to hear it the confidence to walk through those front doors with enthusiasm, knowing that they'll be met with equal enthusiasm from within council. Thank you. I'll commit that to the floor.
Thank you, Councillor Debner. Councillor Oldacre.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In supporting this motion, I just want to use the example of some time back is there was a recommendation came to the table not to approve a Pepperberry development. And, but, well, hold on a minute. So we took it on, we changed it, had the wording, had to employ another planner to do it, and it got past everybody, and it's now operational, and they're thriving. And it was about building another house in that block. I understand where the staff are coming from. They've got rules that they need to follow. But us, as sitting at this table, we can change things. It's only a matter of making sure you've got the right wording.
Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Collins?
Yeah, on backing up what Councillor Oldacre says, I wasn't on council at that stage, but I do know the story, and that's a young family that's trying to come back to the area, have their children and produce another industry in the area. And it took them 2 years to get that through, and only for their persistence that they actually got it through, and they've only just started building a house on it now. So that's nearly 3 or 4 years that it's taken them to get to that stage. So most people would pull out and leave, and we don't want that happening. We want to encourage it. We want to find answers for them and be able to present them with the answers to the problems that will give them the opportunities to go ahead and do what they need to be able to do.
Thanks, Councillor Collins. Deputy Mayor, then Councillor Hine.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I wholly support Councillor Debner's motion and feel that it's vitally important that the community understands that our organisation will listen, advise and act on their behalf in a positive way that creates growth and finds solutions to barriers with a can-do attitude. I believe that with a policy such as this in place, we can alleviate any negativity towards our council by allowing people to think big, make bold moves and know that we will do all we can to remove barriers and find solutions, therefore helping to bring about much needed growth for Circular Head. I'm in full support of the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hine.
Yeah, thank you. And Councillor Dawes has just touched on one of my points, but first of all, I'd like to commend Councillor Debner for putting this forward, because I think it's a positive approach and something that we should be working on. As Councillor Dawes mentioned in her address, we need to be known as a can-do council, and in our public interaction, we should assist to make every effort to find a solution to goals. And when council staff are involved, we need to stress on them that here's how you can, rather than no, you can't. And where a solution may be present, where a solution may be present, it's sometimes it's not offered. And so I commend the motion and fully support it.
Councillor Flowers?
Yeah, I'll be supporting the motion. It's been way too long, this council, in my opinion, and the dealings I've had with it in the past, that you go to do something, it seems to be roadblocks everywhere. Hopefully we can get that out of the system, and hopefully we can have an attitude throughout the state as a council that's keen to listen and keen to do things, not like it has been.
Thank you. I will, if there's no other, I'll be supporting the motion, but I will comment that and agree with all the thought patterns behind it, Councillor Debner, but I think it showed in the report we received and the work went into the CULP. The CULP one we just passed, that attitude is starting to flow through there now. It's important that it keeps growing and stays there, But I think that attitude is starting to flow through our staff at the moment, so I think that's a positive as well. And with no further preamble, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you.
Good on you, Mark.
Mark. Animal control fees. Bill. 9.1 we're up to, too.
Animal control fees in front of you there, councillors. There's been a recommended rise of 5% in those fees, mainly to keep pace with inflation and to get these fees up to a level where they're covering our costs, or some of our costs anyway. Last year there was an increase of 7%, so the 5% increase is down by 2%. I'll put that to the council to approve.
Thanks, Phil. Is there any questions on that report? If not, can I move in a second? Thanks, Councillor Flowers. Seconded, Councillor Dabner. No debate, or Councillor Flowers?
Yeah, 5% rise is minimal. It's along with everything else. It's going up like crazy. It sounds crazy, but it's 5%'s not. So I think it'll be good.
Through you, Mr Mayor, to the reason, councillors, the reason why these fees and charges for animal control actually come up at this time of year, not in the budget, is because we actually have to get the notices out so they don't clash with the rates period. So that's why they end up coming up by themselves.
Do you wish to speak, Councillor Dabner?
No.
Councillor Hine?
Yeah, just to ask a question. It's probably nothing to do with this rate in a way, but it does actually sort of relate to it. Is there a list of that, in view of the fact that we're maybe looking at the dog park, to sort of see what we can do to improve that we could circulate to those people if we want to have a public forum or question or something like that?
A later date.
Right.
Not part of this motion. Right, no further. I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Financials.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, before you we've got the financial reports for the period ended 30th of April 2024. We received one application for First Homeowners Grant Scheme, acknowledging 6 in total for the year so far. In terms of the comprehensive income statement or the profit and loss statement, we currently got a deficit of, it's about halfway down page 197, surplus deficit or deficit of 1.6 million compared to a budgeted deficit of 625,000. We still have, there's plenty of commentary down the bottom there to explain the variances of each of those expense and income items, which we're hoping to do more of each month, so it's just building on that. The financial assistance grants haven't come in yet, so they'll come in sometime in June, which are probably the big thing because they'll be over $2 million. So that'll be the big one. In terms of the statement of financial position on page 198, we have total equity of $269.5 million. So that's all assets minus our liabilities. In terms of statement of cash flows, we've currently got just a smidge over 16 million in the bank. In terms of receivables, our proportion collected of rates is 0.56% compared to 0.44% last year. So it's up slightly. We'll see how that goes in the next couple of months leading up to June. We do have a 30 plus days sundry debtor in that 444,391 figure there, and that's actually still that grant funding that Department of State Growth, I think it's Department of State Growth, still hasn't paid, which we've been chasing up, and they assure us that will actually be paid in about the second week of June. So that's good. So we'll get that in before the end of the financial year. In terms of the bank rec and our investments, we're currently probably around that 4.5%, a little bit over 4.5% on average for our cash and investments. And then we have the service area reports after that. So I'll present that for Council's consideration, Mr Mayor, and we have an interim audit next week as well. So we've got the Tas Audit Office up here on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Thank you, Rachel. Questions? Not, could I have a mover and a seconder that the report be noted? Thanks.
Actually, can I have one question?
Yes.
The heavy vehicle tax that we haven't received yet, is that normally received by now, or I note that it was mentioned that it hadn't been received?
I can't tell you that. I would have to take that on notice.
I assume that's paid in just one lump
Yeah, it's
sum
one
annually.
lump.
Yep.
Yep. Definitely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. So Deputy Mayor moved, seconded. Thanks,
Thank
Councillor
you.
Collins. Put the motion, those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Rachel again, council values. 9.3, we up to?
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, before you, I'll just scroll back down again. We have the report on council values, which the actual values are attached in here on page 208. So the process we went through there was we had some sessions with staff around what they valued as being members of this organisation. So we had 3 sessions on that with various staff from indoor and outdoor in the visitor centre. What we've come up with are 3 pillars, which are equity, connection and excellence. So I've then workshopped them with yourselves, and there's been a couple of minor tweaks to those, which are sort of along the lines of what Councillor Dabner's policy was tonight, notice of motion. So basically, organisational values a set of core beliefs that people within an organisation basically live by and demonstrate in their day-to-day interactions with each other. So they're probably the cornerstone of organisational culture. So I think it's great that elected members wanted to adopt these as their own, because culture does get set from the top of an organisation, and you being the board, it's great that you have that you wish to adopt these. So the recommendations are there to adopt the set of values, which are I've actually emailed out to all staff and had consultation with staff that they were happy to include your amendments in the staff version as well, which was good, and also demonstrates these values while serving their term as an elected member. It's also a good framework for you to keep each other accountable by as well. So I'll present that report and take any questions, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Rachel. Questions? Councillor Hyde?
Yeah, can I just ask a question through you? There's 3 totally different headings that was in the previous one. The previous one was respect, honesty, trust and transparency. How do they blend in those previous values with this?
Yeah. I think the previous ones, I think there was 5 previous ones that went round in a circle. I think unity was in the middle as well. I think they're probably woven into these. They're not, I think they're probably as a given in the organisation. So these were more broad principles rather than just individual items of like respect and honesty and things like that. They are implicit in the 3 pillars, if that makes sense. So they were probably ones that were, 10 or 15 years ago that what we got people to strive for. I think we have that as the basis underlying what we do every day, but these are probably the next level on from that, if that makes sense. So I'm not sure if I'm explaining it very well, but
It's
yeah.
through you, Mr Mayor. It's a modern way of expressing the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think we actually show, by doing what's on here, we actually show those things.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, they're not just written there as the words, though.
I haven't done a comparison, but...
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes,
Yeah,
Councillor, please.
can this be put up somewhere or
Yeah.
towards the entrance there? So, because 9 times out of 10, you ask someone their values and they haven't got a clue.
Yep.
And
Yep.
if you ask me that in 6 months' time, unless I see it, I won't have a clue
No,
either.
fair point.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr Mayor, and I'm probably just preempting Rachel here, but this is the first step in then embedding it in the organisation, having posters that will be visible and around the place, and we're developing a spectrum of organisational culture work, which will start from looking at the whole recruitment process to the induction process, and we will, you won't have seen them yet, but there are some posters already up with above and below the line behaviours. So this is something we're going to be working on, and I've, put my name against it because culture is the foundation of a successful growth-oriented organisation. So, sorry, definitely going to be visible.
Could I have a mover and a second? Is that be accepted? Thanks, Councillor Dabner. Seconded, Councillor Hine. No debate, all we've done. We have workshopped it all. I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, I'll throw you, Mr Mayor, just on that one as well too. In terms of the design and stuff like that, we do have staff members working on that in-house at the moment as well too.
Yep, thank you. We're up to 9.4, Policy Review Risk Management Framework.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
You are best on ground.
Definitely best on ground tonight.
Yeah.
I'm on the ground, but whether I'm best or not is a different question.
Don't get too excited.
Councillors, before you we have the risk management framework and policy. We've had one previously, which we've still been using, which was I think adopted back in about 2016. So this is in line with the Waratah Wynyard policy as well, policy and framework. So we can use, our staff basically use the same framework if councillors are happy with that. Risk is an important thing in our organisation in terms of it's in what we do every day. We make judgments and assumptions, and we make decisions based on the risk of a certain activity. It might be that we're trying to eliminate a bad risk, or it might be that we want to work on and capture something that might be a positive risk in the organisation. So it might be as Councillor Dabner mentioned before, there might be new opportunities there that it might be a risk if we don't invest in or we don't do something. So it's not necessarily on the negative side, it could be on the positive side as well too. So what the policy does and the framework does is it obviously gives us those sets of rules and guidelines to assess those opportunities and constraints within the organisation. We currently have a strategic risk register which is owned by the councillors, so that's something that you go through and you have a look at and work out what's on your register, and then we actually assess them against the criteria to work out what's actually a high risk and what's not. And then we put some processes in place or mitigating factors in place that may or increase or reduce the likelihood of that event actually happening, or the impact of that event. Then we have the operational risk register, which is actually which the staff do, the management team does in terms of the operations of the organisation. So this is basically the framework, the documents that sit behind that, and how we manage that with our registers and our staff. So. I'll present the register and the policy for council's consideration, Mr Mayor, and take any questions.
Thanks, Rachel. I would remind councillors we are back in council, so please, if you have a question or comment, to stand. Apart from Councillor Poposky. He's favoured at the moment.
Gone to sleep.
No, he's still here. Any questions to Rachel on that? So a mover and a seconder then, please. Thanks, Councillor Dabner. Seconder, Councillor Collins. No debate? Put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. He's best on ground. 9.5.
Thanks again, Mr Mayor. Councillors, we have a budget amendment, even though we're in, this is actually one basically for April. So you're getting it in May, which we're, 11/12 nearly through the year. But we have a few items that were adopted in the budget last year that have probably changed since then, and one of them is the discussion around Port Ladder and the existing cell, or the new cell, it's not the existing cell, the new cell at Port Ladder, and also the loan borrowings and the interest that actually go with that. So to make life a little bit easier in terms of at the end of the financial year and in our financial statements, we actually have to explain variances. It'll make your statements versus your budget actually look very different. So what we thought it'd be easier at this point in time is actually to do an amended budget to make those explanations and things a little bit easier over the end of financial year. So more aligned to actually where we are going. So in there as well, there's actually some changes to we actually put up a budget amendment, I think it was in December, to do some changes for positions and things like that as well. As part of that, we'd missed out the actual the projects. So there was some special operating projects that were included in the original budget adopted but weren't included in the last one, so they need to be included in this. So they're the amendments before you.
Thank you. Questions? Comments? If not, do I have a mover? Just thanks, Councillor. Yes, no, I'll stop. There's a question. Was it?
No, I was going to second it.
Oh! Second, Councillor Popovsky.
Be quiet tonight.
He's back.
No debate. I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. 9.6. Thank you.
Councillors, this household hazardous waste collection is a report by the Cradle Coast Waste Management Group on the annual collection that happened in November 2023 across the region, and it outlines the material collected in each area. And you'll see that White Hills in November, 4 people came and we collected 200 kilos of hazardous waste. And the table below that shows you the most common types of hazardous waste were collected. This is a service that's valued by the community. Cradle Coast Waste Management Group funds it, and it can continue to fund it, and it is overall a good thing to help remove hazardous waste from the community. So I commend the report.
Thank you. Questions for the General Manager? Councillor Flowers?
I didn't have that good of a read, but is there asbestos in that? Or?
No, not in the list that were collected this time, and I suspect it wouldn't be because asbestos requires specific approvals and approaches to do it safely, so that is something that will be done by specialists separately.
Yeah, so it won't be in this.
No.
Thank you.
No further questions? I'd like to have a mover and a seconder. The report be accepted. Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Seconded by Councillor Debner. No debate? The motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Senior Manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I wanted to particularly highlight the successful Mother's Day Classic, which was the first one we'd had, and at time of writing the agenda, 74 people had registered, but on the day, over 100 turned up. It was a very successful event. I think Deputy Mayor was there, certainly.
Yes, it was an awesome day.
And we're hoping that this will be an annual event. A very successful youth fest was held, and I also wanted to point out that we're hoping to extend the 7-Up Youth Centre hours. We've got a little bit of additional funding. We're working with the partners to open it a bit longer and provide that safe space for some of our young people who need it for longer than we have been. So I commend the report.
Thank you. Questions for the General Manager? If not, I need someone to move to note the report. Thanks, Councillor Debner and Councillor Hines, seconded. No debate. I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. 9.8. There's some minutes there from Stanley Town Hall, the Wellbeing Collective, Chaddock and Central Outdoor Area Management Committee. Stanley Town Hall, any questions or comments?
Yes, point E, artwork on the town hall external wall. can we, if they're considering going forward, can we ask them to put it through the Public Art Committee with a recommendation back to council, please?
Number 2.
That's their job. That's why we got that committee.
Stanley Town Hall.
Stanley
area.
Town, yep. Yeah, we can make that,
You can see what they come back with and then we'll vote on it.
well, yep.
That's if they're going forward.
Thank you. Any other comment? Roll through to the Chaddock. Sorry, the Consultative Committee, sorry, is the next one. They're out of order, I think.
Yeah.
It's actually Chaddock come up first, actually.
Came up first, yeah.
No comment or questions? Then we'll get to the, I don't think those ones are there. I'm thinking that the collective are not there.
No, it just comes up as Chaddock.
It's come up as Chaddock twice, I'm sorry about that.
Yep. Central Outdoor Area Management Committee, we'll get them others into the next month's agenda.
Yep.
Mr Mayor, that's the February minutes.
Yep.
Don't know what he done with the April one.
Haven't received them.
Yeah, when the first agenda, sorry, Mr Mayor, don't want us to be arguing with our typist back here, but when I read the first minutes, the April minutes of the COAG meeting was there.
Through you, Mr Mayor, this is the Central Outdoor Management Committee meeting, it says held at Chris Wells' house Monday the 5th of February. I think they just haven't updated it because if you look at the...
There was one in April, which was about the 18th of April.
They signed it on the 2nd and the 5th.
Yes. So I think they haven't sent the April ones through yet.
We'll chase them ones up
We'll chase them up.
and get them into next month. Right, can I have a move and a second that they be noted, please? Deputy Mayor and Councillor Flowers. No debate? Motion, those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. I now need a mover and a seconder.
So moved.
Thanks, Councillor Oldacre. Seconded. Councillor Dabner. Put the motion. This is for the items to be considered in the closed meeting. Put the motion. Those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. And if I could have a mover and a seconder to close the open meeting. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Dabner, put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Turn her off, Sal. Now we can swing.
Oh, don't you?
Check it.
Yeah.